Hey everybody, Galactron fans coming at you guys with another video. Today is going to be a review on the Ultraman Geed movie, Connect the Wishes. So one of the only reasons why I even watched this movie was because I was watching Ultraman reviews from this YouTube channel called TokuCast. You should definitely go check them out. A link to their channel will be in the description below. Well, they got to the Ultraman Geed movie, and then I realized, oh, I haven't even watched the Ultraman Geed movie. I had watched Ultraman Rube last year, but I never watched the Geed movie prior. I never even watched the Rube movie, and I still haven't watched Taiga. So this is my time to catch up on this missing Ultraman content that I haven't watched. And overall, I thought the Geed movie was pretty okay. There were a lot of highs for me, but I'm not sure if they can make up for the severe lows that I had to go through. But let's just talk about the Ultraman Geed movie, shall we? So, we get introduced to our villain, and the villain for this movie is a robot known as Gil Baris, and he was created by the Kushia people, a really intelligent race, and trust me, they're pretty intelligent. Although the only outstanding technological achievement from this race we have is Gil Baris, the movie goes out of their way to tell you that this robot is absolutely intelligent, and so are the Kushia people. We get told constantly that this robot is intelligent, but besides digitizing planets, there's no real reason to really believe that it's so intelligent. So, we start with our character Iru, who manages to escape her homeworld, which gets digitized, and come here to, you guessed it, just so happen to be planet Earth. I just find it so funny that all these aliens and monsters always come to planet Earth. Then we cut to present day, while Gil Baris continues to attack various planets because his main goal is to search for the Red Steel. And the Red Steel is obviously the MacGuffin in this movie. It's literally just a MacGuffin that the villains and the heroes are trying to get. However, the Space Garrison and the Ultimate Force Zero have acknowledged the fact that Galactron Mark II as well as Gil Baris are actually unstoppable. And the reason for this is because Gil Baris' body can be destroyed, but his actual form is intangible to all the Ultra heroes, and only the Red Steel can actually stop him. I don't understand why specifically Gil Baris cannot be destroyed by the Ultras. These are extremely powerful beings, and you have this weak spear form of Gil Baris that is intangible and pretty much indestructible to them. That just felt really weird. And what I find to be even more weird was the fact that the Ultra Garrison was completely okay with Gil Baris going along other planets and digitizing them, but as soon as he approaches Earth, their absolute gem of a planet, all of a sudden the Ultra Garrison care, and they don't even dispatch the whole garrison, they just dispatch Ultimate Force Zero to stop him. And to be quite frank, Ultimate Force Zero was really useless in this movie. They have some pretty funny moments, but outside of a few chuckles, they weren't really necessary for this movie and were severely underused. But anyway, let's just talk about Iris. She comes here to Earth, and already, as soon as she comes here to Earth, she manages to take control of Gukira Shisha, which is what I like to call the Ultraman King Caesar. And what's pretty ironic is that the Ultraman Wiki has already made this comparison for me, but just to go off of it, they're both mammal monsters that are based off of Okinawa mythology. And my biggest problem with these Okinawa monsters is the question of, where were you guys when the Mongolians were invading all of Asia? Where were you guys when the Japanese invaded Okinawa? And most of all, for me at least, where were you guys when America landed in Okinawa in World War II? What were you guys doing? Not doing your job, that's for sure. Can you imagine how much Japan could have truly turned the tide of the war if they somehow had King Caesar and Gukira Caesar on their side? United States, Great Britain, Dutch East Indies, Philippines, they would have all lost so badly if these monsters actually tried to protect the people of Okinawa. But regardless of historical inconsistencies, let's just talk about how this movie cuts to modern day. So in modern day, we have AIB tracking down Juggler's Juggler, and this is where we get the review of Galactron MK2. Now, Galactron MK2 or Mark II is really goofy in my opinion. I don't like the design that much. First of all, I think that all the armament is excessive, but even if you wanted to keep the armament on Galactron Mark II, they should have kept the tail. I thought the tail with the armor would have balanced it out, but because there is no tail on Galactron, it just makes the armor look extremely hunky on him because there's no sense of balance on him. And on top of that, his legs are pretty short and stubby. And again, when Galactron Mark II lands for the first time and he does that roar, I actually laughed. And maybe that's a good thing. I don't know. I just thought it was absolutely hilarious because I forgot how freaking ridiculous Galactron was. Because the Ultraman series has used Galactron so much, so much. I really compare him to Imperializer from Ultraman Mebius. If you remember Ultraman Mebius with Imperializer, he was a threat. He was extremely powerful, and he was pretty much indestructible when Mebius first fought him. But then Ultraman Ginga S brought him back, and all of a sudden he was just an army of robots that could be destroyed in a couple of slashes. Galactron has got treatment worse than that. All of a sudden, not only was he a two-parter just like the Imperializer from Ultraman Mebius, but now he's just an army of monsters that are just basically generic enemies that the Ultraman can fight, not this extremely advanced artificial life form that is extremely durable. Now he's just a generic monster, which is probably why they made the Galactron Mark II, because they realized their own fault and mistake for making Galactron 1 so weak and expendable. Anyway, Galactron Mark II causes a lot of problems, and he manages to even beat up Ultraman Geed, which causes Riku as a character to suffer from what I like to call character regression. So, in a narrative storyline, we have a character go through progression, where they learn lessons, they go to trial and error, they manage to accomplish their goal, but they have some form of strife. And at the end of their story, they become a much better person, but they've also changed in their outlook. They've had their mythos shattered a little bit, but they managed to learn the lesson from it. In this movie, Ultraman Geed has regressed so much, it's almost as if the series didn't happen for him, because Riku all of a sudden gets character amnesia, and he forgets that he has friends. Riku becomes a selfish person, he becomes a coward, he becomes disgraceful, he lacks any sort of honor or any way in which he'll be able to change his destiny. He just is set in stone with what currently happens, and doesn't go out of his way to try and stop things. Which is ultimately why I don't like the writing for Riku in this movie. Riku develops a sense of doubt. So all of a sudden, Juggler comes into the AIB base. He even makes fun of the fact that AIB doesn't have any security for him, which shows that Juggler can just do whatever he wants. But Juggler tries to activate help. He tries to get help from AIB and all the other characters, Riku, Laiha, and even Pega says, "Even want help from me?" I almost felt as if I was going to flip my table. I was going to say, "Riku, nobody wants you here. The big boys are talking. The big boys and the big girls are talking. Pega, you're just a pleb. You're useless." Except Pega kind of does help at the end. But regardless, though, we're going to be going back with our characters. They decide to look at the Pacific records to learn about the mythology of the Red Steel, and that's where they learn that it's in Okinawa. And this movie has what I like to call conveniences, where if some events didn't happen a few hours or even a few minutes than what was originally written in the script prior, they could have potentially missed out. So the characters arrive in Okinawa, and Lido just so happens to be there dancing in the crowd, which is absolutely hilarious. Can you imagine if the main characters arrived, I don't know, an hour before that event? They would have never seen Lido, or if they had arrived hours later, they would have never seen Lido. And so they run into Lido, and Lido tells them that he just so happens to know somebody who opened an outdoor school about Japanese mythology. And so they just so happen to find this person. And this person is, of course, Iru, the alien, who has somehow survived for thousands of years. And we're going to be getting into why this is a really weird problem, for me at least. So Iru tells our main cast about Okinawa mythology. She talks a whole lot about how she loves nature and the environment. I'm surprised they didn't try to force a message down our throats about how we should protect it. But either way, though, she loves the environment. And so this is where she leads all of our characters to the red steel, which looks like a baby toy, in my opinion. Doesn't even look as if it's an actual weapon. But I do like this scene right here where Douglas Juggler says, "Oh, I guess I'm not the worthy hero." And he even says, as always, it's almost as if Douglas Juggler is aware that he never gets chosen for anything really cool or divine, and how he is always pushed to the side by these worthy quote unquote characters such as Riku or Guy Kiranai. But either way, though, I digress. So we have the characters figuring out that even Riku isn't as divine as he thought because he can't stop the Galactron. He can't unlock the red steel for some reason. And so Riku becomes very frustrated about that. Galactron Mark II comes back. And this is where Iru decides to call out her monster, which is Gukira Shisar, who appeared at the very beginning of this movie. And I honestly thought it was pretty weird because I don't understand how this alien character comes to Earth and all of a sudden can control this Earth monster. Again, if you've been living for thousands of years, where were you beforehand? Which gets to be an even bigger problem. So while all the other characters flee, Riku doesn't do anything. He just doubts himself and beats himself up. He lacks any sort of self-esteem. His confidence level goes down. But Riku decides to talk to Iru, and Iru says, "Oh, you're Ultraman Geed, right?" And he says, "Oh wait, you know I'm Geed?" And what I found to be so funny is that Ira, this line broke me. She says, "I've known the whole time, I've been watching you and your friends since the beginning." And I was thinking, hold on, where were you in episode 1? Where were you in the final episodes? Where were you when Belial, when all these monsters attacked the world? Where were you and Gukira Sisa sitting on Okinawa? Okay, why do you try to help? And I think one of the final episodes of Ultraman Geed took place on Okinawa, where we were able to see Alien Sturm's planet. So that was pretty ridiculous, am I right? But either way though, they realized they needed to be able to gain more information. So they go into the town of Okinawa, a small town in Okinawa, which is currently where illegal aliens hide, and these aliens don't really like AIB. So they go to this bar, this sort of outdoor bar, and all of a sudden everybody gets into a fight because Riku wants to get some milk, some hot milk, which is pretty ridiculous. I get he's underage, but hot milk, and this alien tries to hit on Laiha, and of course, everything breaks out into a fight, and Guy Kiranai just so happens. See how everything's due to convenience? He just so happens to show up. Can you imagine if they had come here on a different day or a day before that? Guy would have never been there, but Guy shows up and Guy manages to beat up all the aliens, gets himself a soda. So the Ultra characters finally figure out that Gilbaris is planning to reset all life on Earth because it is intelligent. And so the main characters learn this from a fortune teller, presumably, in which they have to be able to consistently gain money from. Or, I'm sorry, they had to give money to the fortune teller in order for them to learn this exposition, which is completely forced on the characters. We get told in this scene that the Kushia people are brilliant, and that Gilbaris is brilliant, and that he plans to digitize the world. But I don't really this whole movie just feels really weak when it comes to its narrative tension. All the characters go outside, and this is where we have Galactron Mark II once again attacking. We have a really cool transformation sequence with Guy and Riku where they become Ultraman Orb and Ultraman Geed. Once again, they start to fight Galactron Mark II. And this is where we have Ultraman Zero with the ultimate force. And Ultraman Zero just sees that the entire world is being covered in a force field. In my opinion, this movie feels really small scale. I know that Ultraman always takes place in Japan, But I thought the Ultraman X movie did a flawless job of setting up different locations across the world to make it feel as if it was not just Japan being attacked, but the whole world being attacked. Even the Ultraman X series did pretty good at making the world feel as if it were attacked, because it featured Ultraman X's main villain, Grieza, attacking the United States. But in this movie, it just takes place in a small town in Okinawa, and literally no other places on Earth are being attacked, even though the entire world is covered in a force field. So in that aspect, I felt the movie was a little bit weaker on that end. Either way, though, Ultraman Zero just flies down to Earth. The other Ultimate Force members just stand there and watch. They're just floating up in Earth's atmosphere, a little bit above Earth's atmosphere, just waiting and trying to shoot their beams aimlessly. Ultraman Zero arrives and provides support for our main heroes, Ultraman Orb and Ultraman Geed. Galactron Mark II is extremely powerful, but Ultraman Geed realizes that he can't do enough to him, and Galactron Mark II kills Orb and Zero. Of course, they're not actually dead, though, they're just figuratively gone, and Ultraman Geed all of a sudden becomes very angry, and he destroys Galactron Mark II out of anger, but he's knocked down in the process because he's used too much energy. Gil Barris decides to digitize all life on Earth. People start to disappear as if Thanos launched his Infinity Gauntlet, and so Gil Barris dispatches a whole army of just Galatrons, just tons of Galatrons, literally tons of Galatrons just start falling through portals and attacking all of Okinawa, and presumably, of course, it's not shown, all across the world. Jugless Juggler decides to steal what he can, and he decides to show that he can contribute to the fight too. So Jugless Juggler turns giant, and he decides to do so by taking Irohiga's crystal. And of course, she also summons Gukira Shisha one last time to contribute to the fight. And so this is where it shows that the other members, the human members, Laiha, Lido, Riku, Pega, Ram, Zena, they all contribute in the fight against the little robots that Gilbaris dispatches. And at one point, Lido even reunites with Ultraman Zero. And let me tell you, I love this part. Because Ultraman Geed the movie does what I wanted Ultraman X the movie to do. And that is unite our Ultraman with our secondary character. So in Ultraman X the movie, Tachibana was Ultraman Nexus's host in the series, but once the movie rolled around, Nexus did not reunite with Tachibana, so the two were just separate characters. Nexus was off fighting in Egypt, I presume, and Tachibana was just sitting at the Zeo base, doing absolutely nothing but just watching the screen. It would have been so cool if the Nexus went right back to Tachibana and they were able to fight one last time. The Geed movie thankfully understood what I wanted, and so Lido and Ultraman Zero get to fight one last time. And let me tell you, it's just great, because Lido was honestly one of my favorite parts about the Ultraman Geed series. I thought he really elevated the series for me. So seeing them fight once more was really great. Seeing Jugless Juggler turn into his giant form rather than using a monster all the time was also a nice refresher, because I honestly like Jugless Juggler's giant form a little bit more than, say, Zepandon, but that's just my opinion, though. So all of our heroes return. Riku all of a sudden realizes that, hey, I literally can't just sit around and do nothing. I have to actually try and save the world. But in the process, unfortunately, Galactron kills Iru. And it's supposed to be this really sad moment, but to be quite frank, I didn't really feel anything. I couldn't care less that she died. But she dies, and so she gives Riku the red steel, which allows him to unlock his new form, which is called Ultimate Final. Let me tell you, that's a pretty, I don't want to say bad name, but that's just a really lackluster, not so original name. Ultraman Geed Ultimate Final. You're taking Ultimate and combining it with Final. I thought Ultraman Geed, and especially Orb's names, had really cool titles and rings to them when you say them, but Ultimate Final just sounds something, it sounds like something a middle schooler would come up with. Ultimate Final. You take two of your favorite words and you put them together. No sense of originality or real element. And this whole concept about Ultraman Geed transforming this way is that he's supposed to take the genes okay, I guess people that are just genetically involved are better than, say, the other heroes. Just because Ultraman Geed has the genes from Ultimate Final, he all of a sudden can defeat the intangible Galactron Mark II as well as Gilbaris, something that the Ultra Brothers and even Ultimate Force Zero weren't able to accomplish in the years prior. Okay, that makes a lot of sense, I guess. Well, either way, though, Ultraman Orb and Ultraman Zero managed to defeat all of the Galactrons with the help of Douglas Juggler, and then Douglas Juggler just says, okay, I've done my part, I've got my salary. It's almost as if the actor said, well, I fulfilled my acting role, I'm gonna go off and just relax or something. And Douglas Juggler does not enter the final fight, which kind of disappointed me, but at the same time, I would understand his character's sentiment. But I don't know. I just kind of wanted to see Douglas Juggler join up in the final fight. By the way, though, our three main Ultras, Ultraman Orb, Ultraman Zero, and Ultraman Geed Ultimate Final, fly up into space and they finally confront Gilbaris, which is basically just like Ultraman Orb's monster, but just bulkier. I don't know what's up with these Ultraman movies having these extremely bulky, hunky robot things, but Gilbaris fights off against Ultraman Geed, Ultraman Zero, Ultraman Orb for a few minutes, and then Geed decides that, oh, hey, I'm not perfect. And Gilbaris is saying, oh, intelligent life deserves to be destroyed because they want peace, but I am the way to accomplish peace. And then Riku's saying, oh, sure, we may contradict ourselves a little bit, but that still makes me have the moral high ground over you. Or whatever logic he's using, if he's even using any at all. And so Riku, through the power of just contradictions from real life people, manages to defeat Gilbaris, and Gilbaris gets destroyed. And then Ultimate Force Zero, who had consistently shot their lasers and beams at the barrier, see that the barrier's gone, and they say, oh, hey, we did something, even though we literally contributed nothing to the final fight. And so the movie ends with everybody standing on the beach of Okinawa. I almost forgot that there was this really funny part to the movie at the end where Gene Bot asks Riku, hey, can you say Gene fight or whatever? And so he does the position, and then Gene Bot said, oh, I thought you looked familiar. And I literally thought that was the funniest joke in the movie, because Riku's actor initially played in Ultraman Zero Revenge of Belial. So seeing Gene Bot recognize Riku and thought he looked familiar was one of the funniest things. Only people who had seen the Revenge of Belial will get that joke, and because I thought that joke was absolutely funny. That was probably one of the only jokes I thought was funny. But either way, though, I thought this movie was pretty okay. It just felt as if something was really missing. This whole movie it just happens. There's no real reason, I guess, for things to occur this way. But let's just go over things that I did like. Okay, let's just talk about the things that I did like. So, this movie fixed a huge problem that everyone had been saying. A lot of Ultraman fans who were previously Kamen Rider fans or Sentai fans complain about the newer Ultraman shows because they say that the henshins and the transformations take way too long. And one of the examples I always get brought up with is Ultraman Zero Beyond, and how that transformation slash henshin takes a whole minute or so. Luckily, this movie capitalizes on that critique and shortens the transformations really quickly. There are some moments where Ultraman Orb and Ultraman Gi just switch to their different forms. For example, Ultraman Orb will switch to Origin to all of a sudden he will become Hurricane Slash, and I won't even see it happen. It'll just jump cut to a different transformation, and I'll sit there thinking, wait, he changed forms? I didn't even see that. I wish the movie would have just showed a little beam of light or some energy surging around the Ultraman to show that they changed, but there would just be some moments where the camera will be on an Ultraman character, it'll jump to the monster or a different Ultraman character, and then all of a sudden, all of them are a different form, and I'm sitting there thinking, wait, what? When did that happen? I didn't even see that. But it's kind of cool though, because then it makes the transformations a lot quicker. Because can you imagine if Ultraman Orb and Geed had to switch their forms one by one each time? That would take forever, considering how many forms and fusions they cycle through in just this movie alone. They really cycle through a lot of modes in this movie. Usually the Ultras stay in one mode and that's it, but this movie cycles through so many, including Zero's mode, Strong Corona, and Luna Miracle. Zero doesn't even really use his modes that much, but even this movie circles through their modes. And it even goes through Shining for about a second. Shining Zero appears in this movie for 1 second, and he uses his broken time ability as a Deus Ex Machina to literally avoid dying with Ultraman Orb to Galactron, which again is a Deus Ex Machina. This movie does a lot of tropes. It has a MacGuffin, it has a Deus Ex Machina, it has some weird moral high ground with the villain. This movie just does a lot of weird things. But I will say this though, I did like Ultraman Zero Beyond's transformation. Zero Beyond does a kick, and then his new generation Ultras just fuse right into the kick, which is a pretty unique way, you know? That's a pretty cool way to transform. I've never seen that before. In regards to Ultraman Geed Ultimate Final, I just thought the actual mode is not really one I was that excited for. It's just I see it and I say, okay, it looks kind of cool. I thought Ultraman Geed's series forms looked a little bit more powerful than this one. I thought that Ultraman X, Ultraman Ginga, and even Ultraman Orb to a lighter extent had movie forms that looked more powerful than their series forms. But Ultraman Geed's movie form doesn't look as cool or as strong as some of his series forms. And that's just my opinion, but the Ultraman Geed Ultimate Final form, it just looks whatever. I didn't really care for it too much. It's okay though. I'm not gonna say it's bad. It's definitely not a bad movie form, but it just felt pretty lackluster. I don't really like it too much. In regards to Iru, I thought she was an okay character. I didn't really care when she died. She talks about nature, but that doesn't really connect much to the movie. Maybe if Iru saw that nature was being digitized, she could have said, oh no, not nature, or oh, humans could do more to protect nature. Even something cliche like that would have at least given her motivation, but literally, or she could have said, I've lived on Earth for thousands of years and I have seen humanity evolve. Just something like that. But literally, there's no real motivation for her character. She just fights against Gilbaris. She doesn't even say that, oh, my parents were killed. Just nothing. She just does it because the script tells her to. So I didn't really care for her character that much. I just thought it was whatever. I thought she was a pretty meh character. And she was even holding onto Riku's hand as if she liked him or something. As she was dying, I was thinking, was there supposed to be a romance between these two? Because I don't understand what that was for. I thought her character was pretty lackluster. I didn't really like her character that much. Let's see, Gukira Caesar. I thought he was an okay monster. Again, he's not that remarkable to me. He's pretty forgettable in my opinion. Where was this monster in the Geed series? Can you imagine if Ultraman Geed was fighting these other monsters and Iru and Gukura Caesar appeared and they were thinking, oh, we know you're Ultraman Geed, we're here to help you and your friends. And she joined the cast, she could have been so helpful, but no. Gukira Caesar was just sitting there doing nothing until this movie. Let's see. The Giga Finalizer is a pretty neat device, I guess. It would have been pretty cool if this was introduced in the Geed series to see it fight Ultraman Belial's Giga Battlenizer. But again, this is a movie concept, so you can never introduce things from the movie into the series. But I was just saying, as a concept, this was pretty cool. But it doesn't get to fight Ultraman Belial's Giga Battlenizer. There's no battle of the weapons. By the way, though, the Giga Finalizer, it's a MacGuffin. That's really all I can say. It unlocks Ultimate Final, but that's really all it does. Let's see. In terms of Gilbaris, okay, Gilbaris is a pretty bad villain. I don't like Gilbaris at all. I think Atelker is a pretty cool villain, but Gilbaris is really, it's not that good. I don't like Gilbaris that much. Gilbaris keeps bragging. Actually, it's not even really Gilbaris. The characters in the movie keep bragging about how Gilbaris is this dangerous, intelligent life form. The best thing I could compare it to from fiction would be Brainiac. Do you guys know Brainiac from the DC universe? Brainiac is this robot. Well, I'm gonna go with the Superman cartoon that I used to watch. In the Superman 90s cartoon, there's this robot called Brainiac, similar to Gilbaris, who was created by the Kushia Kryptonians. They're both start with a K. I wonder if there's a similarity. The Kryptonians create this intelligent robot called Brainiac, and similar to Gilbaris, instead of, keeping peace on the planet, Brainiac decides to preserve the cities of the alien races that it comes across while destroying the planet, similar to how Gilbaris decides to digitize the planet while keeping the intelligence of the race if they are deemed to be a threat. Well, in this similar vein, I at least thought that Brainiac had some form of intelligence because it was somewhat of a sentient, self-aware character. Gilbaris doesn't really have any interaction with the Ultraman characters. Even when Riku comes across Gilbaris just says that, oh, intelligent life are just contradictory, and Ultraman Zero says, well, you can't accomplish peace with destruction. But I honestly thought there was a lot more missing. Gilbaris just does things as a character, but doesn't really have much of a purpose or reasoning for doing so. Gilbaris is just a character that spews out intelligent exposition, but there's no real depth to him. And I get he's a robot, he's not an intelligent alien or anything of that sort, but the characters around him just brag about how he's intelligent. But I just thought there was something missing to Gilbaris. Gilbaris just felt really weird in my opinion, and so when the Ultraman heroes fly up to fight him, he just turns out to be a black Galactron with a bunch of cannons on him. And to be quite honest, Gilbaris wasn't even that powerful. He didn't look that powerful. Sure, he was fighting Zero, Orb, and Geed's ultimate final form, but he didn't really seem that threatening once they actually fought him. And because Geed was able to cut right through him, it just felt too easy for him. Geed was practically not even breaking a sweat fighting Gilbaris. At least with the other villains, the main villain gets to confront the heroes for a little while and beat them up a little bit. But in this case, Gilbaris, he gets caught by the Ultras and he gets blown up by the heroes. I thought Gilbaris was a pretty bad villain. I did not like him that much. Okay, Galactron Mark II. Again, I don't like the design. I wish they could have kept the tail. I just thought Galactron Mark II was pretty... I don't really like him either. Galactron, the Galactrons that appear in this movie, there's so many of them in this movie. I am tired of seeing Galactron. Juggler's Juggler. I actually really like Juggler's Juggler in this movie, and I would darn say a little bit more than the Orb movie. It was great to see Juggler's Juggler return to his true form and become giant. I really love the chemistry that he has. Juggler's Juggler. Okay, I'm gonna say this right now. I think the Geed movie has a pretty bad character. It has some pretty bad characters, with the worst character being Iru. I don't like her character. I think it has a pretty bad villain in the form of Gilbaris. But the minor characters such as Lido and Juggler's Juggler and Guy, they have some great chemistry. I love seeing their chemistry. When Juggler's Juggler first meets Lido, he keeps calling him Daddy-O, and that is hilarious. And there is just some great chemistry and great interaction going on between Juggler and Lido. I could just watch those two interact for another 30 minutes because, let me tell you, their interactions were hilarious. There are some parts where Juggler's Juggler just pushes Lido aside, kind of touches him in demeaning ways, and it's hilarious. And he always shoves him around, but when Lido gets hurt, it's pretty funny because then that's when the characters kind of care. And there's one point where Juggler's Juggler turns giant and he gets hurt by Galactron, and Lido says, "Juggler!" And I felt that. That was probably some of the most emotion that I ever felt from this movie, was seeing Juggler get hurt and Lido's caring about it, even though he's been mistreated this whole time. So I thought the chemistry between Juggler was pretty great. And there's even one really outstanding moment where Juggler is turned giant and Ultraman Orb causes him to stand up. And Orb says, "Well, now what, buddy?" And Juggler says, "I'm going to cause peace for the universe. But once I'm done with that, I'm going to go back to trying to destroy you." And so that part really put a smile on my face when Orb helps Juggler up. because it shows progression. You see, this is exactly what we needed, more progression. It's funny because the secondary characters are a lot better than Riku. Riku was my least favorite character in this movie. He regresses so much. He becomes selfish. He forgets about his friend. He tries to push them aside. But here you have Lido, Guy, and Juggler. They all progress. They all have more progression. And it's not even their own movie. It's Riku's movie. It's Geed's movie. And yet Riku is, in my opinion, one of the worst characters in this movie. Which is pretty weird, I guess. I'm not sure if that really makes sense. Let's look at the other characters. Riku, I've already bashed on him a lot, but I didn't really like his character. I thought his character was pretty lackluster. He regressed as a character. He became selfish. He learned the lessons that he already learned in the series. Even the other characters say the only reason why he defeated Belial was because he defied fate. And then Riku says, oh, defy fate. It's almost as if he forgot. He suffered a concussion and forgot who he was in the series, and then has to learn the very same lessons, but in literally a third of the time that he did in the series, thus making it feel even more rushed and forced. So I didn't really like Riku's character that much. Laya's okay. She's whatever. Moa, I thought Moa was a little bit funny. There are some parts in the beginning, and you can kind of tell this movie doesn't expand upon it because it's trying to be more kiddie, but it's been really implied since the very beginning that we met Moa, that Moa kind of likes Riku. And just when Riku is even talking to Iru, there are parts where Moa will literally push him out of the way as if she doesn't want him talking to her, which I thought were pretty amusing, I guess. Zena's pretty cool. It's pretty interesting to see Zena interact, and even one point where Riku says that Zena is pretty scary. But yeah, I thought Zena was pretty okay. Rem is whatever. Again, she actually contributes in the fight as a ship, which is pretty cool. Pega's pretty funny, I guess. I did like seeing Pega fight against the aliens at the bar, or whatever, the outdoor town at night, which was pretty amusing because Pega doesn't really fight, so seeing him actually stand up was pretty okay. Let's look. The Ultimate Force Zero, Genebot, J9, Glenfire, Mirror 9, they were pretty nice. I thought Glenfire was pretty amusing. Glenfire, he was saying, we are counting on you, Ultraman, Jita. Like, he forgets Ultraman Geed's name, which kind of makes sense because the two haven't even met each other. And then Glenfire has one of my favorite lines in the movie. When the Ultimate Force Zero are returning back to the M78 universe, you can hear Glenfire. I think he is the one who says this. He says, I want to be an Ultra Brother too. And I said, oh my goodness, can you imagine Glenfire becomes an Ultra Brother or something? I mean, he looks kind of like an Ultraman, doesn't he? Am I the only one that thinks that Mirror Knight and Glenfire look like they can be Ultramen? I can't be the only one. Mirror Knight was pretty funny too. He says, I'm gonna destroy this barrier in a magnificent way. And then when Riku thanks the Mirror Knight says, oh no, you're making me blush. And then Glenfire's like, you're in the way, get out of the way. In the small moments that they have some pretty good chemistry. But again though, why were they needed? They literally did nothing but float in space and waited for Zero to get done. I could see if they were trying to fight Gilbaris. I wish they appeared and fought Gilbaris at the very end, or even just appeared to help finish him off, because that would have been kind of cool. They would have felt as if they actually contributed something. But instead, they just sat up in space. So you know what, guys? I'm just going to get done with this review, because I don't want this review to go on for too long, but ultimately, I thought this movie was... I thought it was pretty lackluster. I'm not gonna lie, when I did see the fights, particularly the final battle with the Galactrons, I was kind of smiling because seeing Orb and Geed come together along with Juggler and Zero, that was pretty cool. I did like that. But it's just that this whole movie just feels unnecessary. Gil Barris is a pretty bad villain. I didn't care about him. I didn't feel threatened by him. I couldn't care less about him. And the thing is about this movie is that it has a really weird effect. This movie portrays a villain that is literally threatening the entire world, and the entire place, the setting of the movie, is in a tiny town in Okinawa. It's like, couldn't you have chosen somewhere larger scale? Or at least show some footage? The reporter on the news says that other people are being attacked, and literally we just see 10 people in one area get digitized. But the whole point of the movie is that it's supposed to make me believe that the entire world, people across the planet, are being digitized. And I'm just sitting here thinking, okay, where are the other countries? Where are my boys in the US? At least Ultraman X showed the US in the series, and at least the X movie showed continents all across the world. I felt as if the world was being threatened, but in this movie, it felt as if a tiny town in Okinawa was being threatened, which wasn't really significant, especially since this isn't a small scale threat, this is a larger scale threat. And some of the Ultraman movies do have smaller scale threats. Zygorg was a pretty smaller scale threat, but it portrayed other monsters attacking all across the world. And so this movie is supposed to portray the entire world potentially getting digitized, but it only focuses on Okinawa for the whole movie. Overall, I thought, again, Gil Barris was just a pretty bad villain. He keeps saying that he's intelligent, that he's perfect, but I don't really get that feeling. I don't know why he took the form of Galactron. That whole thing was just absolutely ridiculous. I did not like Gil Barris' actual form. And even when he appears, he still keeps talking about his monologue, about how he's perfect. Gil Barris was a pretty forgettable villain. I did not really like him. Galactron's 1 and 2, Mark 2, trash design, Galactron Army, that was pretty bad. I think the only thing I really liked were the secondary characters. And let me tell you, the stuff for the secondary characters were pretty high, but ultimately, there were just a lot of problems I had with the main character, Riku, as well as Iru and the villain, that this movie just felt really down. Anyway, guys, I don't want to talk around in circles more than I already have. What did you guys think about the Geek movie? Maybe if I watch it, I literally just finished watching it. Literally 40 minutes ago, I just finished watching the Geek movie. Maybe if I watch it a few more times, not back to back, of course, but maybe if I come back to the movie in, say, a few weeks or a few months, maybe I may find some more things that I like in it. But as of right now, this movie felt like it was really missing something. So I'll just say this movie's okay. It's an alright movie. It's okay. It just man, I hate it when movies do this to me, where they just feel as if something's wrong, but something was pretty good about it too. What did you guys think about the Geek movie? I really want to see what you guys had to say. I've already said a lot more, and some of you guys probably aren't even going to really watch this video to the end, probably. So if you're hearing this message, comment a yes or something, or comment Ultraman Unite. Comment Ultraman Unite if you heard this part of the video. If you made it this far into the video, comment Ultraman Unite, and I know that you watched this whole video. But some of you may still get to this part and you don't comment that, which in that case, it's your decision, it's on you. But anyway, thank you guys for watching. Like, comment, share, subscribe. What did you guys think about the Geek movie? I thought it was okay. There were a lot of lows for me, a lot of disappointing things about it. Comment your thoughts below and I'll read them and respond, and I'll be seeing you guys in the next video. Bye.